Okay, now we're live.
Cool.
Okay, well, um, once again, welcome. And
Thank you.
all right, continue.
Yeah. So when I first got into it, was literally like just sheer fascination. I can remember being very very young, probably like 6 or 7 years old, literally throwing a temper tantrum in the local pet store because I had to own a fire-bellied toad. Like, had to. It was the coolest thing I had ever seen, and I had to have it. And luckily, my mother didn't like the fact that I was putting up a scene in the pet store, so I got the toad. And that was basically it. Like, that's what started the insanity. Was like, I got that toad. I learned very quickly. My mom helped me figure out how to set it up, what was appropriate to set it up, and I would just stare at it because I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. It was this bright green and black toad with a crazy orange belly. I was like, this is the coolest thing, and it's real. Like, what? Um, that
Yeah,
was
like it's
real.
living and breathing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't like, it's not a toy. What is going on? So that was really like the start of it all for me. And we got the internet in my house when I was pretty young. So at that point I was like enamored. So I was like, I want to read every book I possibly can. I want to Google as much as I can. Like, I just want to research and learn about everything. And from that, toad became working with green anoles and leopard geckos and bearded dragons. And it wasn't until I was about 11 years old that my mom finally let me get a snake. So I was like begging for snakes for years. And then for my 11th birthday, my mom came to me and she's like, so I've been thinking about letting you get a snake for your birthday. And I was like, that's it! Game on! Let's go.
Right.
And and that was like it. So I got a corn snake from like a local Petco, and unfortunately it failed to thrive, as unfortunately many pet reptiles do from the big box stores. Um, so I ended up getting a ball python from the local mom and pop shop, and still have them to this day. 16-ish years later, 16, 17
Wow.
years later, and I love that snake. Um, but that was literally the beginning of the end for for all intents and purposes, because it was like, okay, well, I was already kind of like dabbling with breeding the leopard geckos and the bearded dragons and stuff, and I was like selling them to my friends, like, hey, give me like $20 and you can have this gecko, whatever. And I was like, I bet you I could probably do the same thing with snakes. And inevitably, it's a lot harder to sell snakes to your friends. I'll tell you that. The gecko is easy to convince your friend's mom to, like, look, it's a cool little lizard. And the snake is suddenly the evil demon that nobody should ever keep in their household. But yeah, so it's really just been like a lifelong passion. And when I was about 16 years old, that's when I met Kevin at Nerd. Um, from a friend of mine who had known Kevin for a very long time, who was like, hey, you like ball pythons? This guy's like the king of ball pythons. You should meet him, whatever. And that that whole endeavor was, so my first interaction with Kevin, I was on a private tour with one of the managers at the time, and Kevin walks by. Dude stops him, introduces us, and he like kind of shakes my hand and says hello, and then runs away. And like, that was it. That was my first interaction with Kevin, and I was like, "What the fuck is that guy?" Like, um, and because I didn't really know any better, I just thought ball pythons were cool. And then I came home and like researched Nerd even more and got the full grasp of like who Kevin was, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, what? Um, After I got my driver's license, I was going up to Nerd. So I grew up like 2 hours away from Nerd. So when I got my driver's license, it was like any time I could get either my parents' car or when I finally got a car to go up for the day, I was going up. I was going up to hang out.
Right.
Um, and Kevin was really, he was one of the first guys that really like gave me an education with snakes. Before him was my friend Adam Harris. who lives in Connecticut, and he was the first person that like ever took my dream seriously of working with reptiles when I was still kind of pretty young, and he was a heavy colubrid guy, so I got the colubrid education from him, and the ball python genetic education from Kevin. And of course, Kevin has always had a very eclectic collection, so I got to witness and see a lot of crazy stuff over the years going up there. So when it came to actually like, getting a job at Nerd, I was literally just visiting one day, and Kevin was like, "You looking for a job?" And I was like, "I mean, maybe, like, maybe." I was teaching music full time. That was actually what I went to school for was music. And I was kind of getting tired of having teenagers to tell me to go screw off at 8:30 in the morning. So I was like, maybe it's time for a career change. So that was basically how that all came to be. I just happened to be there visiting Kevin as a friend, and he was like, I could use an extra set of hands up here. And that was it, But I mean, that was after a decade-long friendship with the dude,
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of the long-winded synopsis.
I totally relate to that. When I was like 4 years old, it was my birthday, and like pretty much for my whole life, I've been going to this local pet store. It was like a small, privately owned, local shop, and I would go there. I was going there for like 3 years, since I was like a baby. And I never got anything because, at that age, like I didn't really know better, I didn't know anything about them, and I definitely liked them. That's why I kept going, just like stare into the glass and look at the animals. But for my 4th birthday, my parents got me a bearded dragon, and like, oh, dude, I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I would like, it was like the coolest thing ever. I felt like the coolest kid in my school, and I kept going back to that shop, and I kept, visiting there. At some point, they like let me help around and work with them, and like it was pretty much thanks to that shop that I got into reptiles and the more exotic side of pet keeping. And like I'm still like super young. I'm still a teenager, and like it's still like crazy like to think how much that store did for me in like the 6 or 7 years that I was going there and like hanging out with them and working with them. So yeah, I definitely get that whole thing of like, growing up around this.
Hell yeah, man. That's sometimes, man, just having your foot in the door will open up those experiences and opportunities, man. So hell yeah.
And
that's still very similar with me. Yeah, I walked out with a leopard gecko first time, then a royal python. Well, you guys know it's all pythons. But, then after only 6 months of owning that royal python, they said, look, we've got something that you'll probably like, which in hindsight wasn't a great idea because I ended up walking out with an Amazon tree boa at the age of 14.
What do you mean? That's a great idea.
It's a captive bred. It was only a little captive bred one, so it's really well behaved, and it's an awesome snake to watch. Yeah. But
yeah.
I mean, I personally have a question for you too. Like, how do you go about like setting up the connections? Like, since you're the manager at Nerd, like, how do you go about setting up the connections for either other breeders or people who can import animals? Like that kind of stuff. How do you set up a network inside of the hobby? Because you can't just go up to a random person and go like, yo, how many people do you know who breed snakes? Because I think that's a bit of an intrusive question, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I've been keeping for basically the last 20 years. So I had built up, so I was always going to reptile shows. I was always going to like the animal shops and whatever. And I would volunteer at my local zoo and all those kind of things. So amazingly, I'm actually more of an introvert. But when it comes to animals and music, that's when I'm very much like an outgoing, outspoken person. Like I will literally talk your ear off because it's just what I love. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So when it came to kind of jumping on board at Nerd, I mean, Kevin's been obviously around for way longer than I have. So he already amassed this massive network. And then it was basically like, hey, I need you to call this person. You don't know who the hell they are, but they know me. Tell them you work for me and whatever, But the biggest thing, and amazingly, I actually learned this a lot more when I was doing music full time. If you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to meet anybody. You could have the most amazing collection of whatever it is you love to work with, and nobody will know about it if you don't talk to anybody. And it's important to realize too that building a network doesn't mean social media. Building a network, the best relationships I have are with the people that I've met face to face, or I talk to on the phone, or that I'm texting, or whatever. Those are the most genuine connections that I have with people. People coming into my DMs on Instagram or Facebook, like, of course, I'm going to treat those people with the same respect, but it's a very different interaction with those people. And a lot of times, especially now with my position at Nerd, a lot of times people hit me up because they want something.
Right.
So that's not a
Yeah.
true, genuine connection. As trying to build up a network. Like I have a guy that is like my go-to guy for colubrids. That's somebody that I've known since I was, in my mid-teens. We used to always vend at the same show, and I used to always just go stare at his table. And ironically enough, he used to watch my old school YouTube videos from way back in the day. So like, we kind of were already cool with each other without even really knowing each other. And then when I was like really getting heavy into working with colubrids, he was always the first guy that popped into my mind because we had already established this connection with each other. So fortunately and unfortunately, with it being 2021 and the shift of social media, it's a lot easier to generate connections and to build a network. But so much of what we do now is internet based, which of course isn't a bad thing, but oftentimes, you can just stop having a conversation with somebody in an IG DM by just stop talking. You just stop responding.
Right.
It's a little bit different when you actually have to have a conversation like this, or in person, and have a conversation, have an actual conversation. You get to know that person and understand that person a little bit more. So there's nothing that will replace getting your feet on the ground and establishing a connection with somebody. That's really how you build up a network. And the one nice thing with social media is it's a lot easier to get a hold of people in general. Like guys like Tom Crutchfield, he posts all over Facebook, and is very active on Facebook. And he's somebody that I knew through social media for many years, but didn't necessarily have a decent connection with him until we went down to his place in Homestead, Florida last year. And that's when I finally got to meet him, have a conversation with him, and vice versa. And not that we didn't get along on social media, but again, it's different having an actual interaction with somebody.
Right. I'm sure it's also a lot like, as you talk to them, whether it's on the phone or in person, like over time, things will just come out, like you'll be having a normal conversation, someone like, let's say about where they went to school, and then you'll bring up the hobby and then you guys can start connecting over that. And then at some point you can carry on,
Exactly. That's really it, man. Like I think about my relationship with Kevin, I think the first couple times I ever went to Nerd, he thought I was just some annoying kid that was coming to waste his employees' time, but then I started asking him the right questions where I was like, hey, so like I have ball pythons that aren't normal ball pythons. Like I'm actually keeping and breeding morphs and kind of like interested in genetics. I'm interested in this gene. I don't understand this aspect of it. Can you teach me? Or at least help me get a better understanding of it. And I remember he like grabbed me by the arm and like pulled me into a ball python room for like a good hour and a half. He like schooled me on ball python genetics. But I think that was the point when it clicked for him, like I wasn't just some random kid coming to waste time. Like I actually was like I was coming for a reason, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely get the more interaction time you get and you have those conversations where things start to open up and you're like, oh, okay, we can actually we can connect on something. That is
Right.
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
In that case, I know exactly what you and I are gonna have to do at the next expo, KJ. No, really, because honestly, like for the past few years, like I've genuinely been dreaming of starting up, like even if it's small time for now, like a business of breeding and selling inverts for the sole purpose of preventing mass catching in the wild, or at least that's what I've personally been trying to do.
Yeah.
It's just I've been unable to get a network or acquire the equipment, or at least of course I have some rare animals right now that I'm currently breeding, but still I'm not really at the position yet where I could say like, yo, you want to buy some, or you want to, you want, because how do I say this? I'm still like very novice when it comes to the hobby, or at least when it comes to the breeding part of the hobby. So like I can go up to someone like Fat Bob's Exotics, like I don't know if I don't think you know him, right?
No, I'm
Yeah,
not
he's-
familiar with him.
Yeah, okay, so like he's a guy from Poland who like he comes to the local expo every single year, and like but I can't really go up to him and say like, hey, I've bred this species, like you want to buy some, because like I don't, I'm a nobody in that part of the hobby, and I don't know, I just need to make myself known first before I actually you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely get it. And that's like literally exactly it. You have to interact with those people, and and find something, like if they're working with a similar species, or they're working with a species you want to work with, like that's exactly how you break the ice with those people. I think about, like, there's a guy who breeds carpet pythons here in New Jersey. His name's Mike Curtin, and we used to always be at the White Plains, New York show, and he always had these crazy carpets, like ridiculously crazy carpets, and I've always been a carpet python geek. So I would just be staring at the stuff on his table. I would just go. I wouldn't even say anything to him. I would just go there and like stare and be like, "Oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever," And when I finally like had a conversation with him and was just like, "Man, like I'm really interested in these. Like, tell me more. What's the lineage aspect? Blah blah blah." That was like the icebreaker of like, and he was basically like, "Well, it's about time you finally said something. You only come to my table every freaking show for like an hour and stare at everything, and he's like a super nice guy, and now like he and I will talk, back and forth. We've known each other for a long time, but it literally all started from just like, he saw me as this random kid who obviously enjoyed the species, but I wouldn't say a damn thing, like, ever. I was more interested in the animal than I was in the person at the time, and also, again, introvert. So, I'm like, I want to hold a snake. That's all I want to do. But yeah, that's literally it, man. You just need to find a creative way to break the ice and then keep that conversation going, And I will say, in the midst of that, sometimes you'll come across people that don't care,
Right.
They don't care to establish a new connection, and that's okay. Like, don't let that be a discouraging factor. Sometimes people are just,
Yeah.
grumpy pieces of crap, and that's that just is what it is.
Right.
There's always somebody else, and on the odd instance that, that person might be the only person working with that species. Okay, cool. It doesn't mean you can't. It just means like, okay, maybe I got to put my money where my mouth is with this person before they actually take me seriously, which is, not the most ideal situation, but I know a few people like that. I've established some connections with people that are exactly like that, and they're a little bit more I guess, aware of their time and deal with it in a very different aspect, where they're like, yeah, I can answer all of your questions, but then you're just going to go to somebody else's table and do the same thing, ask the same questions and whatever. Like, I'm not going to waste my time.
Right.
So I can understand that to an extent. The more you network and connect with people, the more you learn to kind of play the field in that instance.
Right. Yeah. I think like for the longest time, I've been in the hobby for like about 9 years, and only in the past like 2 years or so, I've really tried getting into like the hobby side of it, because before, when I was younger than I am, like I was only interested in the animals. I was like, why should I care about the people? I just want to keep these animals and just have fun with them, do my own thing. But like as I'm getting into it and I'm starting to really like dive into the breeding part and like, in the future wanting to do repopulation, you're gonna need a really big network for that. And I'm like starting to understand like why you would need that, and also like who to go to for those things, because sometimes you can walk up to a table and you ask like one question about an animal and like you can just tell by the way they respond to it if they'd be someone like you really want to build a connection with, or you just want to buy the animal.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, yeah, I mean, I'm also like a huge introvert. Like I am the worst person to talk to strangers. I just can't do it in person. I'm horrible at it. So like I'll be at this table and I'll be like in my mind like, okay, I should talk to him about this, 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 and this, and then I'll just say I'll take that animal, and I won't like start something because I don't know, I just can't do it. I'm really bad at those things. So that's something I really want to work on, because like if I actually want to do this as like a career and stuff, like I need to build connections and I need to build a network. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, again, one of the things to think about too is, obviously going to the shows is an important thing when it comes to building that person-to-person network. But again, one of the positives of social media is just the ease in which to get a hold of somebody. Even emailing. I mean, send somebody a friggin' email. You don't have to just wait for the show. The show is. I feel like, especially for me, because I'm still meeting new people. There's new people joining the hobby and getting into the hobby all the time, which is awesome. And a lot of times, these people just hit us up on social media or whatever, and that's cool. But for me, the show is the part where I get to enhance the connection I've made with somebody over social media. Because now at the time I get to go and see you face to face. I can shake your hand. Well, maybe not with COVID, but but I just at least get to see you. I think that's, for me, become the more valuable part of the show. Is to actually, the cliche of, it's great to put a face to the name, because people only see your screen name or they see your Instagram handle or whatever. That becomes the real valuable part of the shows for me. Because the social media dominates so much.
Right. The shows are kind of like the icing on the cake. It's like you talk to the person and you finally get to like finish off and meet them, and like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And, the other thing to think too is, when you're talking with these people, there's two ways you can approach it. Both work, but one's a little more genuine than the other. One is like, you go to that person and you have your questions and you're very, astute in what you're trying to get across or figure out, and that's it. And you move on. The other is, you do that, but you don't lose yourself in the midst of all of that. For me, when I was a teenager in my early 20s, like really trying to establish myself, I took everything way too seriously. Like I was always the rigid, like, this is business. This is how things get done. And it wasn't until I was like in my still early 20s, but I had established myself enough to where I was like, man, if you don't like the fact that I can be a loud, outspoken, very not for children language oriented human being, and we can't have a great time talking about some fucking snakes. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
Yeah.
like then just keep it moving. You know, we don't have to
Exactly.
be friends. You know,
Yeah.
and like so you guys had Rob on
Right.
a previous podcast, and Rob has like been the epitome of that. I'm gonna be myself through all of this, and just, you know, part of himself is being a reptile geek, you know. So like he goes to somebody's table, sees something that he really likes or is gonna freak out about, he doesn't hold back. He's like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing, how did you get what is that, you know?
Oh my,
And
yeah.
you know, meanwhile I'm like, hey man, like that's a really cool animal, you know. Meanwhile,
Right.
like Rob's
Yeah.
like freaking out, having like I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Fairly Odd Parents.
No.
It was
Yeah.
like this the big cartoon here, and the teacher always had these conspiracies about these little fairies, and he would always be like, like losing his mind, like freaking out about them. Like that's Rob. When he finds a reptile he really likes, like that's Rob. You can't hold him back. That's Rob 100%, and I love that.
God,
about Rob.
I know what that is. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I have the exact same thing.
Yeah, you know, and like, and people like, I think in modern time, people like that a little bit more, especially the people who've been around for a while, because social media has kind of made everything fairly mundane. Like, oh, cool, here's a picture of this really rare thing. You know, like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen it on Instagram. You know, it's cool, it's whatever. But I saw it on Instagram. You know,
Yeah,
and
but like
Rob's
at the
still
same
got that
time, it's like,
visceral reaction of like, that's so cool.
yeah,
Right.
like I completely agree with you on that, because like take alligators for example. Like in the United States, especially Florida, of course, they are fucking everywhere, right? And you you oftentimes see them floating around on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even the news, whatever. But those like that, like the one time that you see, you know, even if it's only on something like a zoo, or you know, babies at a show, like I don't know, it just does something to you. Like the real thing is always better.
Yeah, oh,
Right.
100%.
I think
Because
that
I can hang 1,000 pictures of you know, Terrafosa stirmi on my wall, but having one would be, you know, it would change everything.
Yeah,
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 like,
oh yeah,
as-
100%.
I get that. I even get that feeling on social media if I see something like a Sanzinia or something like that.
Yeah,
Just because I absolutely love tree boas.
yeah,
I feel like that side of it, you know, seeing something and getting excited about it, and like how seeing it is completely different than like, you know, seeing a photo, right? I think that's,
Yeah.
you know, kind of ties into like texting someone or meeting them, you know? It's like
exactly.
always seeing them with your own eyes, and like seeing their personality, and like, you know, just like even just looking into their eyes and just like, you know, actually building a human connection with them. It like changes everything. And I think like, yeah, I think in my opinion, that's kind of hard to come across sometimes in the hobby, because so much of it is done online. You know, you sell reptiles online, you sell inverts online, you know, you talk to the people you're selling to online. And that's why I treasure expos so much, is like you finally get a chance to just like talk to someone. And like, even though I'm very shy, like if I go to an expo, the last expo I went to, for example, when I was picking up some snakes, like I was talking to this ball python breeder, and I could tell my dad was so bored, but we went on like a total geek out mode for like, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes, just like talking about all these morphs. And we even were talking about Nerd and like, you know, BHB and all those places. And like, so I wish we had more opportunities like that in the hobby, you know, because I feel like in certain aspects of it, we're missing out on it. But
yeah.
The only reason it looks like, you know, the only reason it sometimes feel like we don't have those opportunities is because, you know, like the shows that we go to, like especially you and I, like they're only the big shows that only happen like once or twice every year.
right.
You know what I mean? But like the smaller ones, the local shows, that's where it's usually at. You know, like that's where you find the real hobbyists and not the people who have over 100 different snake, ball python morphs in their bedroom. You know, like you know what I mean? Like that's where you find the true, not necessarily geeks, but like I think that even like for instance, I've been in the hobby for 11 years now, right? And sure, like it'll always be fun geeking out over something as simple as a Grammostola rosea, but after a while, it does become a bit dull, the same species over and over and over again. But like seeing the new or the lesser, people who have less time in the hobby and still have so much to learn, seeing them, just completely light up when they talk about, what they love. I think that's one of the main things that I love about this hobby when it comes to people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I definitely do agree. Like sometimes the smaller regional shows or local shows, those are sometimes the best. If not for anything else, just for the fact that you might find somebody local to you that has some badass animals that you didn't even know existed until you actually meet them at those shows. So here in the northeastern part of the U.S., we don't have very many shows at all. We have the Manchester, New Hampshire show. We have the Massachusetts Reptile show. And then there's like the White Plains, New York show. And if you go a little further, you can get to the Long Island show, but it's kind of a hole in the wall kind of show, not necessarily great. But that's really it. The White Plains, New York show is the biggest of them all, and certainly where you meet the most people. But like I can remember going to the show in Manchester, New Hampshire, and going to the show in Massachusetts, and I was very interested in meeting like the pet shop owners, like the reptile shop owners that were coming, because it was like a chance for them to expand their customer base and whatever. Right. And I remember meeting some of those pet shop owners and then being like, oh man, I got to come to your shop, and maybe the shop is 45 minutes away or an hour and a half away, and I had never heard of it, whatever, because it's a small little hole in the wall shop, but they would have the coolest things, 100%. And then, you go to the White Plains, New York show to get the chance to meet the Brian Barcheks or the Kevin McCurleys, or just the people who had a much longer time in the hobby, had a larger business doing this kind of stuff. But it's not until, at least for the US, it's not until you get like Maryland and below where you really see like the intense shows there's some regional shows, bigger regional shows, and there's a lot of local shows. I have some friends in the Carolinas that literally every weekend they're doing a reptile show. Because they'll do the whole span, like for vending wise. They'll do every show that pops up within a 10 to 12 hour driving distance from their place.
Jesus, that's so much.
I can't imagine. That's a grind.
It's crazy to me. That's crazy. But for them, that's their bread and butter. They don't have a brick and mortar pet store that people can go to. They breed animals. One of them breeds and builds enclosures. So, and there's no storefront for them. So he's like, this is how I make my living. It's over the phone orders or email orders and reptile shows. And I'm like,
if it works, it works.
Exactly. I'm like, if you're willing to make a 12-hour drive to drop somebody's cage off, then bless your soul, because that's not me.
Yeah, especially if you do it on your own and don't like send it like most shops and stores do. Like don't send it via postal service, even express mail. Just like as you just said, like the people who are willing to drive hours upon hours just to drop off a single or maybe even 4 enclosures. Like that commands respect, like especially in this hobby, out of all things.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it also like if there was someone at a local show that was like that, where they just went full in, they didn't care about anything else. Their entire goal was just to help the hobby, be in the hobby, make connections, and do what they like. Like I'm gonna want to buy from them more than just like the
Yeah,
average guy with some snakes, you know?
Yeah,
Like it
100%.
speaks to you in a way, you know?
here.
Yeah,
Like
And I think that's because like it's the personal touch. Like the people who are doing it to have fun over
right,
are like you don't like they will always be more attractive to buy from, to talk to make connections with, than the
yeah,
people who are actively doing it either for money or to survive. You know what I mean? Like because the ones who are doing
right,
it because they want to have fun, like they're always gonna be, they're gonna be themselves when they're speaking. People
right.
who belong to businesses, I think you know that too. Like you have to be more, you have to be more formal. You have to be more professional, etc. Right?
right. Yeah, I mean, there's
So
definitely there's a lot of stigmas on how to do. I mean, one of the things that I really like about the reptile industry and the hobby, just kind of as a whole, is it's one of the last like free markets that really exists in the world. You know, like nobody, especially when it comes to the animal side of it, like nobody's sitting there telling you you have to sell a normal ball python at $100. Nobody's saying that. You know, you can
Right.
price your animals however you want, and nobody dictates that. And same thing for cages and stuff like that. Like the price gets dictated by the company, by the owner, whatever, and that's that. So it really becomes like there's obviously good business practices as far as customer service and how you handle maybe a situation that isn't going well. But after that, it's you really get to dictate, everything. Again, I'm when it comes to being reptile shows and just being, I've been doing this for long enough to be like, look, man, I'm here to have fun. Like I've bred many
Right.
species of reptiles. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I'm not fighting my way. I'm certainly not on the top. But I've done enough where I'm like, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing.
Right. Right. Right.
And
yeah,
so you come to me at an expo and you want to joke around and do whatever. Like I used to joke all the time because the people that I would bring me to the reptile shows to when I was vending, they would hate me because I was never at the table. Because I'm like, this is the time I get to go see my friends. I'm gonna go run and go see my friends and make a scene at somebody else's table and freak out and whatever. And then I'd come back to my table for 20 minutes and then run away again to go see somebody else that I didn't get to see the first time. So my people used to hate me. But for
God, I would
me,
have a lot
that
of trouble
was,
being in it.
oh yeah, it's always a fun time. And
Right.
especially like expos like Tinley, forget about it. Because
Oh, dude.
I'm everywhere. I'm 100% everywhere, but my own table.
Yeah. I've been to the NARBC, and dude,
Yeah,
that thing was nuts, man. It was amazing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like getting all diddy when we were on the way driving, and I got there and I just like freaking ran inside, man.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's my first time at Tinley Park. I was like, oh my God, this is the best place in the world,
Right.
And for me, my first time at that show was one of the most clear moments as to why I love a lot of the people in the industry. Like, again, with social media, we see a lot of the negativity because that always gets way more attention. It gets more shares, it gets more comments. It's so the algorithms pick it up more and whatever. So we see it more often. But I think about guys like my buddy Josh Beatty, who I had known online for 10 years. I never met him until being at that show. And it was like I had met, I was seeing an old friend,
Right.
like having those
Yeah,
kind of connections and those big shows, that's where that really happens,
Right.
East Coast and West Coast come together all to this one place and you see those people that you just don't typically see, one of the things that I consider myself lucky for is even though I work at Nerd, I am still a working musician. I still travel and stuff. So there's been multiple times where I've been on the opposite side of the country or just visiting other places for musical things. And I usually always try to get at least a day when I'm, traveling for that where I'm not doing anything so I can go visit a reptile shop. or whatever. So one of the last times I was in California, I went to Jay Brewer's place, to Prehistoric Pets and the Reptiles.
Hey,
I was like,
yeah.
I gotta go, like I gotta go see Jay and whatever. And that was an experience where like I had never met Jay before. My interaction with him was like very minimal, like maybe a couple emails here and there. Like I didn't necessarily have a good connection with him. And after that moment, it was like, this is awesome. Jay, you're a super cool dude. You obviously love your animals and blah, 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 and whatever. And now every once in a while we'll text each other and blah, blah, blah. But if it wasn't for music aspect sending me to California, I never would have gotten the chance to really make that happen, So yeah, anytime I get the chance to travel, I always try to carve out a little time to go see a snake somewhere.
Right.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you're in the United States, so you can find snakes at pretty much any corner, right?
Yeah.
Or is that just a myth?
No, there's pretty much snakes everywhere. Amazingly, so here again in the Northeast, we don't actually have lizards up here.
Really?
So yeah, there's like no lizards. So I'm in Massachusetts right now. There's no lizard species in Massachusetts or New Hampshire or anything. You get into the Carolinas, which is like 700 miles away, 750 miles away. There's like 5-line skinks. There's brown and knolls, like it's like the northernmost part of like the brown and knoll range. And you start seeing lizards. The first time I ever went to Florida, I was losing my mind because there were green and knolls everywhere. And
Right.
you can go get a green knoll for $8 at the pet store, or whatever. But I'm like, oh my god, they're everywhere. This is the coolest. I'm like running. I'm like in my 20s running, trying to catch a green and knoll. Meanwhile, like I work at Nerd playing with 6-foot Asian water monitors and stuff. But I'm like, this little knoll is the coolest thing ever, and it was outside. Like,
Yes. I feel like it's so different when you see it in the wild versus in captivity. Like
100%.
Man, I lived in Los Angeles for like 11 years. I grew up keeping there. I've been to Prehistoric Pets like multiple times. I've met Jay. And like, dude, I'm in the Netherlands now. I live in the Netherlands now.
Okay.
And I miss the wildlife from LA so much. I mean,
yeah.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Go catch some diamondback rattlesnakes, some fence lizards, all these cool species of toads and frogs and, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, you only need buffa buffa. That's all you need. Always remember that. That's all you need.
I mean,
That's all you need. And also just like that single rare vipera. That's all you need. And you know that. You don't miss LA. You just miss the colors. Just take some LSD.
I miss LA. I would move out in a second.
Yeah. So you want
to give up all the easy.
Before I took the job at Nerd, I was actually working on moving to LA. I love California.
Me too.
Like, oh my gosh, one of the best places. But I'm happy I didn't, because I was going to be working full time musically. And if I had made that move when I was planning to, I would have been totally destroyed and homeless because of all the COVID craziness shutting everything down. So I'm happy that I took the job at Nerd. But man, anytime I get to go to California, I'm like, yes. Somebody said something about visiting California. Yes. Give me the dates. I'm there. I don't care.
That's actually something.
6 hours.
But that's actually so.
Oh, go on, Bunyan.
Okay, thank you. But that's actually something you like American people just do. Like you just travel like twice the size of Europe just to go somewhere for a few days and then head back. Is that really something you guys do?
Some people, yeah. I mean,
my God.
Yeah, it's something for sure.
A 2-hour drive here is hell already. I can't imagine what it's like being on the road for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but,
no, go ahead.
When I was in Los Angeles, me and my family did road trips every now and then, and like it's totally different than driving in Europe. I mean, I drive sometimes in the Netherlands, and like it's kind of boring. It's just gloomy, not very pretty outside. But like when you're doing a road trip in LA, like something about it is just different. I don't know like how to explain it, but
Well,
you
you guys just have desert sand and a bunch of cacti.
know, have you been to Maine?
Hey man, some people like cacti.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome.
Everyone does.
Yeah, but then in Europe it's just flat with a few
Europe
trees.
has culture.
Yeah.
Uh,
Don't get me wrong.
barely.
There's certain places in the U.S. that are boring as shit to drive through. Like the entire state of Ohio is like a big cornfield. There's nothing
but
impressive about the drive through Ohio
like, there's a
whatsoever.
reason why people say that Ohio doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's so it is so hard to compare Europe to the U.S. Honestly, like
Well, we're literally just a speck when it comes to, like, especially in scale. Like what we call a city, you guys almost call a village.
that is true.
Like
That is
like the city that I moved away from a couple months ago has like 50,000 citizens, and like your average city in the United States has over 100,000, if not more. And that's just a
Yeah.
small city from what I know.
I mean, isn't the U.S. like 3 times the size of Europe or something like that?
I
Easily.
think so. Yeah.
So it's kind of like logical that there's going to be more people. I mean,
Yeah, but
also Bunyan, you have to understand we're in the Netherlands, okay?
I know.
If you go to a place like France or Italy or like some like really nice place, I doubt it would be the same.
I mean, it's still
That's
only a
probably
few
true, yeah.
100,000 in the largest cities here.
Yeah.
It is a bucket list thing for me to come to Europe because I've never been. I've had 2 opportunities to go, and both of them ended up falling through. So it is a bucket list thing for me to get to Europe. In particular, actually, the Netherlands, only because I have so I play trumpet. That's my primary musical instrument, and for years. I played on a brand of trumpet called Adams trumpets, and they're based in the Netherlands. And until I recently changed to a different brand made here in the U.S. called Cannonball, I was like, there's nothing better than an Adams horn, like ever. And so I want to go to the factory and it's in the Netherlands. So it is 100% bucket list to get out there, get to the Netherlands, and go visit.
I do have
tell you.
one big like something you have to know if you come to Europe, especially since you're in the hobby. I want you to come when there's an expo. Not
Yes.
just to meet you and stuff, but simply because the stuff you see here is like half the shit that we have here is illegal in the United States.
Yeah.
Like no joke.
Yes.
We have caimans. I saw a dude like sell antelopes a couple of years ago.
What?
Yeah,
Hey,
flying squirrels, etc.
And why you have to come here, like hobby-wise, we have 0 reptile laws.
We actually, well, only native. Like you can't keep
Yeah.
anything native. I say with the buffa, but
Okay, all right, yeah.
So
that's
no venomous laws, no crocodilian laws, no lizard laws, nothing. I mean, as a teenager, I own.
Ben died.
I own a few like venomous scorpions that are illegal in the States. I mean, I'm a teenager. I literally bought them alone, and they didn't ask anything. It's like the rules here are crazy, like chill. And it makes like a really interesting atmosphere because you're kind of like, you're at these expos and you see this guy with some corn snakes and on the side of his table, he has like bitis, And it's kind of weird, but like, it's really interesting, and the expos are amazing here.
Are stuff like Phonotria and just wandering spiders in general are they legal to keep in the United States?
Depends on the state.
I think it's state. It depends on the state. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could just keep them just like that, literally lethal animals. You can just keep them here.
Yeah.
That's
the only reason
ridiculous.
that I think that the same laws shouldn't that the United Kingdom should be applied in Europe is because there's bound to be like some dumbass that's gonna get themselves tagged by Hottentotta or something, and it's gonna come all over the news, and they're gonna try to restrict the hobby again. That's the only thing
it's
I
an
want.
unfortunate thing that we see here in the U.S. too. I mean, like we have a big stigma with free handlers when it comes to venomous snakes and stuff, and there's a big disconnect here. I don't know how it is in Europe, but there's a big disconnect here between non-venomous reptile keepers and venomous reptile keepers. Most of the time,
Oh no.
like the two don't even really ever integrate.
No, in the Netherlands,
which is
complete opposite. I mean,
yeah. See
complete
that
opposite.
is amazing. That's what it should be. Like
Yeah.
great example is like Kevin's worked with venomous snakes for 30 years.
Right.
We have a pretty all right collection of venomous stuff. Nothing really over the top. But people lose their mind when they see us do anything venomous because to them, Kevin's just a ball python guy.
Yeah, right. Right.
And it's like, so the ball python guy can't also own a king cobra? Like,
But that's actually how it is there. People actually cheer you on when you try stuff that's out of your known, out of your comfort zone. People here actually cheer you on and try to help you, give advice and everything.
Yeah,
all the way through.
I mean, there's also a big stigma of like, bigger breeders are considered like evil here.
I mean,
especially
yeah.
It just, I mean, I'll put it to you like this: the more popular you are, especially on social media, the more hatred you open yourself up to, because you get everybody's lovely opinion about anything, whether it matters or not, or is relevant or not. So like, again, anytime we've done anything like venomous, you get the venomous experts that suddenly decide to show their face on our content, and they're like, you don't know what you're doing, and blah 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 blah. But we've proven time and time again that Kevin is aware of what he's doing, because he'll do like maybe a simple procedure on an animal, and then the animal is perfectly fine afterwards. Right. It's I mean, like we just had the whole ordeal with Lilith, the leucistic king cobra, with her eye issue, and Kevin removing the cestode that was under the skin on her, and people were like losing their mind. And it's like the super minor incision to remove the cestode is totally healed.
What's a cestode?
It's like a nematode. It's like a small parasite that sits under the skin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the thing with her eye and everything, it's basically there's still some localized swelling around the ocular scale. So she still looks a little not quite perfect. But overall, it's fine. She's eating. She's out. She's active. She's acting just as she was before. And it's like, man, if Kevin didn't know what he was doing, it probably would have been a very different ending.
Right.
Yeah.
I think with snakes, like lizards, I think it can be a little different in my experience. But with snakes, like the animal's eating and like its physical condition is good, like you're pretty much set for success.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, for a snake, I don't know if that makes sense, but like,
yeah.
Hey,
no, it definitely does. Yeah.
I'll be right back. I have to just go to the toilet really quick.
Right. Oh, well, KJ has to leave for just a second, but what do you call it? English. I'm sorry, I'm Dutch myself, so sometimes I have a bit of trouble finding my words.
You're good.
So yeah, like quickly going back to like the reptile and amphibian laws that we have over here. It's genuinely insane. Like some of the like some Australian monitors, like you can just buy them here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I actually saw like your everyday suburban family, if you will, just walk out of the expo with the black mamba. I'm not joking. Just okay. They might have just looked like it, but you can just walk out of an expo with that shit. We have entire days dedicated to snakes, and it's like it's an expo hall with almost easily over 10,000 square meters. I don't know how many square foot that is, but just full of snakes. from all over the world. Like we have this, like what I'm referring to is literally called Snake Day, and it's once a year here, and it's one of the biggest reptile happenings in the entirety of Europe. People from across Europe, even from the top of Sweden, they just come over and buy snakes just because
That's
not only is it
crazy.
cheaper, it's done by actual professionals.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like people like you who know what they're doing, who invest time, money, and sweat and tears into researching the species that they breed.
Yeah.
Like it's not just your average Joe, who's just learned about morph breeding or whatever. Like me, for instance. Snake Day is an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, KJ, you had a question as well?
Yeah, I don't mean to kind of swerve the topic, but I kind of do. Like, do you work with invertebrates? Like insects?
I was actually about to ask.
I don't. Not personally, anyway.
Right.
So I'm not a huge invert guy overall. I really like mantids. But it's just never been anything that's caught my attention as far as keeping. Right. I mean, obviously I'm really good friends with Rob, and Rob is the invertebrate man. So we
talked a lot about that with him.
Yeah, so I live my invertebrate life vicariously through Rob. When he gets a new tarantula, I'll go stare at it.
Well, even though you're not much of an invert guy, right?
Yeah.
You seem to love, the concept of morph breeding and genetic diversity and everything, right? Yeah. I encourage you to check out isopods. I'm not joking. Like, the roly-poly stuff?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Like, new species, new morphs, new everything is popping up. Like, every other week there's something new. Like,
yeah, the isopod
it's almost looking like a
get-rich-quick
scheme.
Yeah, the isopod stuff is pretty interesting. Especially, I think we're just scratching the surface with what we're going to see with that, just because of how popular it's become, and of course how easy they are to generally maintain.
No, like I can tell you right now, firsthand, no, they're not easy by a long shot. Like it's not something like ball pythons, like where you have one genus, 10 species, and they're all almost the exact same care. I have like 7 different species of the Potellio genus, and they're all completely different in care, and they come from the same country. Yeah. Wait, I might be able to show you some.
Man. I don't deal with isopods. I mean, I'm really into like centipedes and tarantulas and scorpions and stuff like that. But isopods, it's so confusing.
Well, listen, you do know that once I breed some of the rarer species, I'm just gonna force you to keep some.
I know you will.
Okay, so let me. Okay, so this is Potellio succinctus, just as an example. Mm-hmm. One of the most rare Potellio species in the hobby currently. This isn't even an adult, and that's my thumb. But they get really big, and I started out with 33 late last year, and this is all I have left because, well, I don't know, like barely anybody keeps them, and like there's absolutely no detailed care on these animals, but like these need to be kept dry, like 1/3 of the enclosure moist with a lot of ventilation, a lot of protein and everything. But I have these guys, they're literally just a few hundred kilometers separated, right? Of course, they're a different genus, but they live in roughly the exact same environment. These guys need to be kept wet with very little, ventilation. And they live in the same spot. Like, just as an example.
That's cool.
That's what I mean by they're confusing. Like, if you like get nitty-gritty with these like more rare species, like you'll be like, oh, I keep this species, and this species lives like right next to it, same city even, and they have like completely different care.
Yeah. Like if you look at the Asian shit that's hitting the market right now, like nobody knows anything about them, and yet, you know, people are still keeping them. People don't even know the genus that half of them are related to. Like that's how hot of a commodity it is right now. No, I'm not joking. Half of the shit that's being quote unquote discovered, by illegal exporters, is just labeled as the Cubagus genus and then just shipped off to fuck knows where in Germany. And
Right.
so, like they're like people, but
I feel like Germany's like the head center of all like illegal imports.
oh yeah. Oh
like,
no, it's just the head. No, listen, Germany is the center of the hobby globally.
Yeah, Germany really is definitely a big one. Yeah.
It's the bastion. Like, if you want shit, like 1 out of every 5 people there owns a snake or something.
Yeah.
I really want to go to the Ham Expo. I have never gone. Seems like
I'm going next year for sure.
I've been
planning to go for Oh, of course I will. It's like okay, so the Ham Expo is, I think, the world's largest exotic expo. Period.
Yeah. It is,
and it's 4 times a year.
And the crazy thing, like just to like put it in scale how big it is, it has like 4 buildings, and each building
and 2 floors
is the size of Tinley.
And each building has a second floor.
Yeah. And not to mention the fact that they have an entire building for venomous snakes.
That's badass.
It is where people become legends, I think.
It is just amazing.
I think that's seriously what the case is.
I'm dying to go there, but it's pretty far from me. It's a hefty trip, but
600 kilometers. Seriously, it's an 8-hour train ride, which, considering everything that you could do there and that you can get there, I mean, it's worth taking a few €1,000 with you just to go there.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, I feel like it wouldn't really be worth it unless you had like big bucks to spend, because otherwise you're not gonna really. There are so many rare species. I don't know. Do you know Dave Kaufman? He was at Nerd.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He made a few videos at Ham. And I think he only explored like a quarter, not even in his video, just like a tiny portion in his video. And you know how much he normally shows in his video, and like he showed just like a little smidget of it.
And from what I'm gathering, right, the Hum Expo is like the exotic Comic-Con. Like, it's an entire weekend of just pure chaos.
Insanity.
Yeah.
It is like.
Because I have heard reports of animals just being dropped and killed on accident or escaping, and things having to be found, and of course theft. A lot of theft happens there, But I don't really think that theft is such a big deal because it turns out to be mostly slings of really common species. But still, it's a problem that needs to be addressed because I'm not looking to have someone run away with an alligator baby.
Yeah,
That's the insane thing. Like, with half the species and animals that are sold at Hum, you could actually just start a zoo.
Oh yeah, I mean, not to mention like a large portion of them are just like sold with like zero checking if the person buying them can like control them, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I could literally, technically I'm still a child, walk into an expo and walk out with a saltwater crocodile. And like spend maybe €500,
No. Saltwater crocodiles, they are
not as salty, but I've seen American alligators sell for around €75 to €100. I mean, that is just like crazy to me, I mean, a part of me likes it because it's like I can go buy these really nice, cool species. But the other part of me is like, is this really what is needed in the hobby,
Yeah, some regulations definitely do need to happen because, like many of the smaller quote-unquote businesses that you'll find there, they have mostly wild-caught shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Most of that is wild-caught, and I think that should just animal control immediately, get that shit called, get the animals to a trusted vendor and just,
Yeah.
Oh, KJ, Ben, well, Ben's back.
Yeah. Going back to
what happened?
Just internet. But going back to what you're saying about the majority of the wild caught stuff, people will argue they need that for the hobby, but I think that should be left to actual breeders and people that know
Damn
what they're
right.
doing.
Damn
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Most of the species being sold invertebrate-wise haven't even been described.
Also, Brassman, this is probably something you should know. Like, this is around the time that we, start being less serious about what we're talking about, and we start kind of shooting the shit with each other. So, just so you know, like conversations, like this is where conversations start to get derailed.
It's all good.
Like, just a bit of a warning. But yeah.
Like,
No worries.
there's a couple of times just where people weren't looking into the background as sellers, and because I primarily deal with invertebrates, one of which being leeches. But there was a couple of times where there was a seller that was caught and they had to bring back all their animals because they had been diagnosed with some sort of illness.
Yeah.
And like, it just needs to be, the background of sellers need to be shown, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the US, it's less of a problem because they are much stricter with import-export laws, at least from what I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
anything here, or import anything.
in Europe, like nothing's checked. I mean, literally, I could probably get any invertebrate I want. I just have to call the right person and they'll get it for me illegally, Zero trouble.
That's crazy.
I mean,
And if
like-
you get caught, you just slap on the wrist. And
yeah, exactly. Like that's another thing. Is like if you get caught, like okay, the animals on that trip get taken away and you're just sent back home. I mean, that's literally it.
That's
Guys,
insane.
I'll be right back. Like, just 5 minutes, okay? Be right back.
Like I think Ben, he's a person who's like worked really hard on busting illegal sellers.
there's too many here.
And like in the UK, there's a lot of laws. There's something called the DWA. It's the Dangerous Wild Animals. It's like a lot of things are banned. I mean, pretty much all venomous scorpions from the Buthidae family, venomous snakes, certain species of lizard. I mean, even stuff like African vine snakes are illegal there. Yet there's, yeah, I know it's crazy, but there is still an abundant amount of illegal sellers.
I mean, yeah, it's weird because we can't get African vine snakes, but you can get boega, certain venomous spiders, which have caused people's death.
It's very weird how it works, but
yeah. Yeah, the U.S. is definitely very strict when it comes to all of that kind of stuff. It's I guess to an extent it's a good thing, but sometimes it's just kind of outlandish, I think, depending upon species and circumstance.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm definitely like part of like, in my opinion at least, like you shouldn't buy a wild caught animal unless you like have intents to breed it, because like, yeah, I don't know. That's just something I feel about. And I have a few wild caught animals, but I obviously have all intents to breed them. It's like the species that can't be bred that are in the hobby, which I don't think many reptiles are like that. But I know there's a few invertebrates where like they're all wild caught because they're impossible to breed in captivity.
Right.
Like I just think they shouldn't be in captivity, Like I think then I just think they shouldn't be in the hobby, I mean, we can't support them ourselves, so why are we keeping them?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, yeah, unless you're going to try to breed some of these things, there really is no need for them to continue to come in. I mean, we have so many species that already exist in the hobby that are captive bred. Maybe not in huge numbers, but they're still being captive bred. Yeah, so the import of them doesn't really need to happen, or at least doesn't need to happen on the same scale. I feel like it serves the purpose for at least the diversifying bloodlines of stuff. But,
yeah.
But definitely is not, or it shouldn't be a go-to for how to get an animal. Like, oh yeah, you just get it imported. It's fine. Or not.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like another problem is like, a lot of these rare species, I'm just going to like take, crocodile monitors, for example, right? A lot of people, I mean, they're still really rare in the hobby, but a lot of
Like,
these
wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, what species are we talking about?
I'm talking about crocodile monitors. We're talking about like wild caught imports and stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm listening.
But like crocodile monitors, they're still like pretty rare in the hobby and they're still very expensive in the hobby. But a lot of these, I'm not going to say novice, but like newer monitor lizard keepers are like buying them as kind of like trophy pets, which is fine. It's fine having just like one animal, but like they're at the point where I think we should leave them to people who are going to breed them. So then, people like me might be able to keep a captive bred in the future. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
People in the hobby have to take a little bit of responsibility instead of just putting it on the breeders and the fact of, okay, I'm not going to buy this animal because I know for a fact I can't breed it. I'm going to leave it to someone who can.
Right. Yeah, no, I do agree with that 100%. 100%. And also, anybody that's buying a croc monitor as a trophy pet, I hope you lose a finger.
For real.
Speaking of trophy pets, I don't even think people should have something along the lines of that. Like, I know plenty of people who buy either a simple rose hair or a brachypelma or even a Pterophosa styrmi and a Goliath bird eater, and they think that they are the shit, and they just get it killed in a few years or even a few months because they don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, they act all big and cool, but they don't even know basic care.
When I say like trophy pet, I mean more like someone who's just going to keep it as like their pet in their house and like have it on display, not like
like that.
Yeah.
Like someone without the intent to breed it and just like have it on display. I think I should have worded it better, but
no. Okay, yeah. I understand.
No,
like,
I
that
get,
should
I get
definitely be.
Saying.
No, that should be allowed, actually.
Yeah. I think the people who are there to just showboat it, but in not necessarily in a positive light, they're just like, I just got it because it's cool.
Yeah, look at my killer monitor.
Yeah. Like, please go lose a finger. Please feed it your finger.
Those are the exact people who are like kind of ruining the hobby, because they're only thinking about themselves and not about the animal and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I end up leaving for a moment, I'll be right back. I just need to send a quick message to somebody.
No problem.
All right. But like what you just said, KJ, like, people only caring about the animal, or at least, about looking cool and not the animal. That's pretty familiar. Some dude from, I think the Philippines does that, right? I think we all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Somebody who doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing and just, shovels money into his mouth.
But the thing is that people pay attention to it online, and they give
yeah, of
people
course, because if you quote unquote accidentally let your spiders run up your arm, a fucking balfuri, you carry it 5 feet off the ground, where it could not just die, but it could kill it could kill any other animal in the house.
He's talking about a species of tarantula, by the way.
Yeah. We're talking about a specific YouTuber, exotics, exotic layer or whoever. You know him?
I don't think I do.
2.5 million subscribers on YouTube. If you ever come across him, just don't pay any attention to him and move on, because he's not worth it. Like, no, listen. He is essentially on social media. He is essentially the face of the tarantula side of the exotics hobby, and he mistreats, antagonizes, and does not care enough for them.
Yeah, I think it's also there's definitely a certain amount of responsibility to people who actually show them off online as well. Like, what may seem the norm for an exotics keeper, like maybe getting a bite from a snake or something by mistake, will be seen as, oh, that snake's ferocious, it's biting people. Yeah,
definitely. I think that's why, like, you see a lot of people. Go on.
Oh, okay. there's definitely a lot of people. I mean, I certainly see it here all over in the U.S. of people that literally just are posting stuff on their social media with a numerous amount of species just for like the showboatiness, like it's going to get me attention, it's
Yeah.
going to, whatever, and it doesn't necessarily do any good, and or it serves a very small purpose as far as like, oh well, now a couple of people who may have been afraid of an animal previously might
Actually, no, it doesn't
look
do
into
anything
it a little
good.
bit more, but overall as a whole, if that little sliver is considered good, there's about 98% of the rest of that is not good.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's
But
literally just done to showboat, and there's a couple people I can think of off the top of my head that literally are they literally know nothing, but they were able to market themselves correctly on social media and play the algorithms to their benefit.
Yeah.
And now
I think
they're
it's-
overtly popular and viewed as experts, even though
Right.
they don't know anything.
Right. I think it's also like one of the problems about like the animal side of social media is like if you're a person who doesn't really know things and like you're getting into the hobby, maybe you're a novice keeper, and you're like watching people who don't know what they're doing and just like try to sound smart, like, oh, they're damaging so many novice keepers and like
and of course, yeah.
they're really hurting like beginners, and like that is what pisses me off the most. I think that even gets me more pissed than the fact that they're maybe not doing the best by their animals. It's just the fact that they are ruining the new generation of this hobby by just being cunts, honestly,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Right.
there's this German on Instagram, Insect House. Like the guy who puts numerous different species of arthropods on his face, and he gets like millions of views on his posts just because he puts bugs on his face. He's had animals literally mate on his face, right next to animals that would normally prey on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He illegally imports animals from Asia. Like there's quite a lot of evidence, to back that claim as well. What else? Yeah, no, like he's even been on the German news, right? My ex showed me like a fragment from that, and I fucking like just the way he speaks, the way he says shit. It irks me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was another particular.
People look up to someone who doesn't actually give a shit about the well-being of his animals, if anything. And if anything, he abuses them by taking invertebrates that should be in 25 degrees Celsius, temperatures out into the cold to take pictures with them.
25 Celsius is like, I don't know, I think it's like 75-ish Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and then there's also there's a particular YouTuber that masked basically a diss on Brian Barczyk under the terms of some spider ball python stuff, and then that same individual goes on to keep a 3-foot bearded dragon in a 3-foot glass tank.
Yeah.
That's the bad thing about social media and this hobby. Like these people should simply, I'm not joking, either we should all, report and get them fucked over, or they should simply listen to the people with actual experience and change their behavior.
But
ooh, you're such a badass for having a spider on your face? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you such a
you can't really expect them to like listen to you. I mean, think of how it is, right? You're portrayed to millions of people as this animal expert, and then
they just have a big fucking ego.
Well, hear me out. You're portraying yourself to millions of people that you're an animal expert, and then out of nowhere you change and say you were wrong the whole time and just change everything you're doing. Like,
I think that would actually command a lot of respect from his entire audience.
But it wouldn't really. It would kind of just make them look like a fool, Certain people would respect that. Like, I would respect that, I respect people who change where they've gone wrong, right? But a lot of people wouldn't, I think. And like, whether they maybe people would, but I doubt they're gonna take that risk. You know.
Oh
So
no,
that's
listen. The
why
thing is,
I don't really have my
Exotic
hopes
Slayer and
for them
Adi,
changing.
they like those two fucks know exactly what they're doing. They know
Exactly.
exactly
Why would
what
they
they're
change?
doing. People like other large people in the community, like even the dude from the Dark Den, you know, Petko. He has specifically, I don't know when it was. I think it was a while back. Talked about Exotic Slayer and the dude in Germany. The fact
Mhm.
that what they're doing is not right, and many other people that I personally know have also actually talked to them, but the only things they get back are, you know, big egos telling them to shut the fuck up because they don't know what they're talking about, despite having more than 20 years in this hobby,
Right.
even
Like,
having discovered behaviors and even some species themselves. No, you don't know what you're talking about because I have a big following. You know what I mean?
just as you
Yeah.
said, you just said it. They know what they're doing is wrong. So why would they go and admit it? You know, why would you waste
That's
your
why we should
time?
just get them banned. If they don't want to listen, they're just gonna have to feel it. I'm
Then
sorry.
Unfortunately,
another.
that's not how it's ever going to work, because
Yeah.
I mean, mass
the
reporting
more
works.
the more views they get, depending on the platform, the more views they get, the more potential money they get. And even if it's not a platform that directly pays a content creator, if you have, you know, X number of views or followers, you get access to, you know, brand deals and like all these other forms to generate income. Nobody's gonna directly give that up or renounce what they're doing per se. You know, when they're essentially able to live the easy life. You know, they're
Right.
literally
Yeah, but
playing the
they're
system.
actually abusing animals. They're doing illegal things in plain
Right,
sight. By the way,
But you have to think
right.
about also the websites they're on. So let's say someone's on YouTube. They have a huge platform, right? Millions of followers, right? The channel's not going to ban them just because they're doing wrong by animals, right? Because I guarantee you the platform is making large amounts of money from them, you know,
Mhm.
whether it's
yeah,
from
that's
brand
true.
deals, whether it's from the ads that pop up, or, you know, just from them making content that gives the platforms money.
Yeah.
So you can't really expect to ban someone with such a massive following unless you get like an even larger following to ban them, which will probably never happen because still so much of the hobby supports them, which are
Here's the thing. No, listen. I
Yeah.
know pretty much nobody who is in the actual hobby, like who has multiple species and who actually is learning what they're doing, who actually watches either Exotic Slayer or follows Insecto's Adi's content. I don't know a single person, and
I
once
don't
I
know names.
actually become, you know, decently large face in this hobby, I'm gonna confront both of them. And either a large part of the hobby is gonna have my back, or nothing's gonna happen. So it's literally a win neutral situation.
I mean,
Like
or
either we restore the no, listen, either we restore the hobby's, you know, face in the general public, or nothing changes at all.
Yeah, I mean the other thing to think about too, like, again, I don't know what laws look like in Europe, but I know in many states in the U.S., like exotic animals, especially like reptiles, invertebrates, anything like that, they're not considered animals to the state.
right.
You
Yeah.
know, they're nothing. You know, um, like I think about, you know, the states here in Massachusetts, the laws for the state of Massachusetts, like, pitiful when it comes to exotic animals. You know, like pitiful. You know, I think about like when a state like Florida, when they first announced doing the iguana hunting or whatever, because to try to cut down the population of invasive iguanas.
Right.
Watching people on their social media literally like kicking an iguana like across the street, you know, or like hitting them with BB guns or whatever. I literally was like, man, you know, imagine if Florida said that about cats, because
Right.
Yeah.
cats are way more damaging to the environment. But what would happen to that person that just kicked a cat, like
Right.
on Instagram. They just kicked a freaking cat. Like their life would
Exactly.
be over, like 100% over.
Yeah, you're
You
you're
know,
completely right
but
with
you do
that.
that to an iguana. You do it to an iguana, and it's like, nah, it's all right, it's fine. It's a lizard. It's a lizard. You know, so there's a
It's just a
big
lizard.
disconnect, and and the same disconnect exists in the social media realm. You know, like as you just said, like nobody that you know that's actually in the hobby pays attention to these fools. It's honestly it's the same over here because you know with most of our people, like the people that follow them, if anybody does, it's other large scale content creators, and that's that's pretty much it. You know, the problem with that is that's the lowest common denominator, so that's where you're going to get the biggest voice because it's the most uneducated people and it's the largest number of people. So
You're right.
you're fighting a mass of ignorance that unfortunately exists on such a large level that you're just it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense to try to speak up in opposition to it, but it doesn't make sense necessarily to like fight it by yourself or call
Right.
these people out by yourself only because look, they literally get to sit on their ass and get on a plane and go wherever the hell in the world they want to go, and somebody's paying all for them.
You know, how about
So
I do the same shit as them, but just educated?
you can do it. The trick there becomes you have to figure out how to make whatever educational content you're going to put up be
Interesting.
eye-catching. You know,
Yeah.
so like
Okay.
Barchek is a great example. I love Brian. I've known Brian for years. I absolutely love the dude. And I've talked with him about like his YouTube thumbnails and titles and stuff. That's where a lot of people right now focus their negative attention is clickbaity titles and blah 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 blah. And he's like, well, you know, man, he's like, I don't necessarily lie in any of my titles, but he's like, I have to figure out how to make somebody want to click it. You know, it would be it's a
You have to make
very
it
different
captivating.
exactly it's very different if he posts a title where he's like injured by my 18-foot python or something like that. It would where literally like he fell over the snake and actually did like hurt his back, but he didn't necessarily lie on the being injured, but
Yeah.
for the people who don't understand reptiles are thinking, oh, he got injured by an 18-foot snake, he must have got bitten by it, versus I tripped over a snake. Like that's not real. Like
And you
to
have
the
to think,
general
right?
public, like, oh, I
Yeah,
fell
you're
over
right.
a snake.
That's not scary, you know.
Yeah, so it's and the other aspect of that is because people will be like, well, you still could have titled it differently. You again have to think about your audience as from a marketing standpoint. There's no point to say I had a difficult time handling my 18-foot snake and then try to show that video to other people who own 18-foot snakes, because they're all in an understanding and agreement that an 18-foot snake is hard to deal with because it's 18 feet of snake. Like
Right.
that's just what
Yeah.
it is. You have to find the way to reach the person that knows absolutely nothing.
You know what?
Right.
And then
And I
once
think-
you have that person, you have to figure out, okay, well, how do I get to hold that person? How do I get to hold their attention? Retention time, especially for a platform like YouTube, is the most important thing. So if you put up a 20-minute video, but on average, people are only watching about 4 minutes of it, why are you
Right,
going to
you're
ever
not
want to
making
waste
money.
the time putting a 20-minute video up? Like you're not.
You know what?
You're gonna be
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess I'm only gonna do a 4-minute video or a 5-minute video so that people watch it. But then from a partner relationship with a content platform, a 4-minute video isn't going to give you any money. You're not going
Right.
to get to post as many ads on that video, which generate your revenue. So you need that 20-minute video to generate your income. So how do you keep somebody's attention for 20 minutes? You have to figure out ways to make that exciting. And like recently in Brian's recent vlogs, I don't know if you guys watch his stuff, but he's moving through his content faster to keep people more engaged, because as time goes on, our attention spans get smaller and smaller
Right.
and
Yeah.
smaller until eventually we're all going to be goldfish. But you know, but
Yeah.
how do you keep somebody's attention? Well, you have to keep changing it up. Something's got to keep changing, you know, so
Right.
that they're like,
I think
oh,
it's-
well, look at this. Oh, now look at this. Oh, now look at this. You know.
I
it
think I
also-
know exactly what I need to do if I want to start out. Like, just as an example, right? Tuesday, I'm getting a shipment of like some really quick spiders, like the spiders that even freak me out. You know, I'm not afraid to admit it. They genuinely make my back, you know, the hairs on my neck stand up.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to film the unboxing and rehousing, right? But how the fuck do I get into editing? Like, I don't know anything about it, and most editing programs are, you know, proper editing programs, I mean, are far out of my budget range. And I already have some ideas of what I want to do, right? I do like the fast content, the quick cuts, the, you know, the quote unquote haha funny zoom ins and loud noises sometimes. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of content I would love to make, but I don't know where to get an affordable editing program, let alone anything, how to really learn that entire thing.
I think that just comes with time. Like, you can't like expect to right when you start already make as good editing stuff as, like, let's say Brian Barczyk, you know, because let's all be honest, he makes some pretty like impressive content, you know.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
you can't expect that, right? Like, I think that's one of the reasons like why I wanted to like get into like doing podcasts and like talking to people, you know, because like I can't be bothered to edit things, you know, but I still really want to put some content out there, and I still really want to get into the world of like kind of video making. So I thought, okay, well, best of both worlds, let's just do live talk shows, you know.
You're right. And my problem as well is like I have, you know, my social life and family life and everything. It takes up too much time for me, you know, especially as somebody with ADHD, to really, you know, have energy at the end of the day to edit a video for 2 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I really want to try doing that on, you know what? I am going to try that on Tuesday. It's just, I don't know where to begin with when it comes to the editing. You know what I mean? It's just really difficult.
Well, I mean,
for me.
part of that also is, you know, maybe because that's a totally valid thing. Like, I don't have a time to edit YouTube content at all. Like, the few YouTube videos that I currently have up, I have Donnie from Nerd edit for me because I don't have the time. But you know, maybe along your quests of going to reptile shows and networking with people, find somebody that has an interest in video editing. And, you know, be like, hey, look, man, if you edit these videos for me, you know, I'll, you know, trade you for, you know, some bizarre invert or whatever, you know, find some way to mutually make it, you know, valuable for both of you. You get the content that you want, and they get an animal that they're interested in, you know, or, you know, I mean, if you can throw them a little bit of money, you know, you do that. Like, hey, dude, edit this video for me. I'll give you, you know, $50 or whatever. You know, because essentially what you're then saying is like, I want to do something. I don't have enough time to do it, so somebody's got to do it for me. You know, if that's truly what you want and the direction you want to take. You know, that's literally what I do on a consistent basis. I don't have time. I don't want to do it. You do it. And then give it to me, and I will appreciate you a lot.
Right.
Well, you get paid in my appreciation.
Yeah, exactly. Here's
And
a
then,
handful of my appreciation. Thank you very much.
But like editing, I find is kind of like the hobby. You don't start off with something complex like a crocodile monitor or an advanced editing program. You start off with something basic like a leopard gecko or just iMovie if you're on iOS.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that's also like how you would learn it. Like, when going back to what I said, like, you can't expect to come into it good, you know? You have to
I know, but
start shit. I'm gonna be honest, you're gonna start pretty shit. And you're probably not gonna have very many viewers, and you're probably not gonna have very many subscribers. But over time, as you learn, you'll not only learn how to edit, but you'll also learn more about the algorithm. You'll also learn more about, which thumbnails captivate the certain viewers you're trying to captivate. And, all those certain small little aspects that is hard to impossible to captivate as you're starting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys, that genuinely thanks for like the info that you're giving me right now, because I'm definitely gonna put it to use. Like the moment that I
Yeah,
actually
most
start
definitely.
filming stuff, the moment that I actually start recording things, I'm just gonna immediately start, either as KJ, you said yourself, or sorry, Ben, like, either start with something basic and just edit the video over days, or hire someone, as you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, it's
and
also
one of
trying
the
different
things
things.
too that comes with that is, like, again, this is kind of something that I've learned through the music aspect of my life, is like having a team, that can help you do things that they're all on the same page, whatever. Exactly like what's happening with this podcast. Like you got 3 guys that are like, yeah, like let's talk about animals, let's shoot the shit with some cool people, and make it happen. Like that's essentially what you truly need for any kind of real level of success. It's not gonna you hear about all the people who are like, I built a business from nothing and it's wonderful, and but what you don't hear necessarily is like the stepping stones along the way, who was there to help,
Right.
be it
Yeah.
somebody who just gave you a little piece of information, or somebody that genuinely is like involved in helping you achieve that goal. So like for my, when I'm putting out music, I have, my go-to engineers, I have my go-to musicians, I have my go-to this, my go-to that, and that's, I'll put the stuff together. And I know that, we're all on the same page. I like everybody's, I like what everybody brings to the table, and that's how it's successful. Same thing for me with my own personal collection. Like I don't necessarily have a team or a network of people, because I can maintain my animals myself. But
Right.
if I have a question about a species, especially a newer species that I'm keeping, I have a go-to person for that. You know
Right.
what I mean? So like if I have a blood python question or a Borneo question, I'm going to Rob, because that's, it's Rob. If I have a carpet python question, I'm going to Nick Mutton. Or all these different things. If I have a ball python question, which I don't have any ball python questions, but if I have a ball python question, I'm going to Kevin or Brian. Those kind of things. That network, that team. The network is one thing, but the team, where it's like I know I can contact this person to get what I need. And I'm going to be satisfied with what's returned to me.
Right.
Like that is everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like when this podcast first started, I think it was like, I don't know, back in 2020, sometime mid 2020, I think.
No, it was early this year, I believe.
No, it wasn't. We've had this a long time. But
okay.
Me and Ben, we started this together. I was just like totally bored, it was like in the first quarantine start, and I was totally bored, and I was like, hey, Ben, let's go start a podcast, kind of expecting him to say no. I didn't see why he'd say yes, but he said yes. And, we started going, and like, I realized like this could, like, we don't have a very big following. I think we have like 50 subscribers or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
But like, I don't really care.
That's still something though.
Yeah. I don't really care for like the YouTube
Right.
side of it. Like, I kind of wanted to do this just like I could talk to people who have the same passion as me, So me and Ben, we started going, and we got some really cool guests on, and we realized like, okay, we could actually make something from this, and like actually like, have a good time doing this. And then like, I think the real moment for me when I realized like, okay, we've actually like done something was when Rob came on. Like, yeah, I've been watching Rob, and I've been like, liking what he does for like years, man. I mean, like so long. And like you as well, like so many people from Nerd and like Brian Barczyk and like all those people, like, I just grew up watching people like that, Kevin McCurley, the old Snake Bites TV,
Oh yeah.
It's like just the idea that I can like actually talk to these people, you know, it's just like mind-boggling for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hell yeah,
the
man.
best thing about all of this is like all three of our, you know, platforms, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube, like they are consistently growing, even if it's like just a few followers a day or a week or whatever. Like all of us, especially you, Ben, like you've been exploding for the past few months in followers, from what I know, right?
Yeah, like well, just purely because I actually do talk to people. Most people my age in the hobby, just they're really nervous talking to people. Like, and then I only really got into tarantula keeping massively a year ago. Obviously,
Yeah,
when
when you were literally a fucking tadpole at that point,
yeah,
like
and
essentially.
then from within that kind of year, I produced a couple of egg sacs, and yeah. But also, you will succeed on social media with YouTube and stuff because who else do you know is being bitten by a giant centipede?
Yeah, like
Yeah, come on,
who else on
Brandon.
this
Here's the
planet has
clickbait videos.
slept with the centipede on accident, be it? But you know, like who else on
Yeah,
this planet can say that they've survived that?
You could just say this, Bunyan, on your video title. I was
I
seduced by a deadly centipede.
Oh my god, yes, yes.
Oh
But
boy.
like I wanna gain a bit of a following before I put something like that up.
Yeah,
Because I'm
Yeah.
not just gonna, you know, like say, yeah, you know, like, you know, a very suggestive
kind
title
of
that might
dog.
refer to me as, you know, as a furry. That's not who I want to look like. I might keep animals, but I'm not gonna fuck them, you know.
okay, wait. How did we go from
Wow.
talking?
Talk about derailed. Holy
I
shit.
can't believe that.
Now listen, KJ, you said, well, you know, I got seduced by a deadly centipede. That literally makes you like
Woo!
sound like a furry, doesn't it?
No, it makes you sound like a really weak-minded person to get seduced by a bug.
Yeah, a furry.
That's amazing.
That's no, but honestly though, like in this hobby, like the shit that I've already seen, even though I've only been in this shit for like 11 years.
You know, only
God.
11 years.
Yeah, no,
Only, yeah.
it's only, you know, like it's only 11 years because, well, sorry, like I've only been actively in the hobby, you know, like expanding, you know, doing research, etc. since late 2017. Right,
Mm.
so I'm just gonna say that like actively I've only been in the hobby for like 3 or 4 years almost, right? 3 years roughly. The shit that I've already seen, the shit that's happened to me and people around me, and you know other people in the hobby, and things that I've heard and people I've talked to, like that's already enough to make story videos of. You know what I mean? Like entire,
Yeah.
you know, like the time that I like unboxing my first old world, which was an OBT. It immediately ran under my couch, and I couldn't find it until that evening, for instance.
Oof.
Yeah, like my very first old world. That was my first experience with it. You know what I mean? And of course
Welcome
that
to the world
centipede.
of the OBT.
Yeah, but like, okay, let me just quickly recap the story of the centipede for you. Just like I hope you understand just how insane this is. You know, like
Okay.
the Vietnamese giant centipede, right?
Yes.
The really big ones.
Yeah.
So I had one. Like you know, I got one late 2019. I had it all the way through to the summer of 2020. Somewhere around late June, I believe it. At one night, for some reason, it just escaped its enclosure. Like it just disappeared, or at least while I was asleep. So I wake up at around 5 a.m. with with a genuinely burning sensation on your back. Like if you've ever burned like you know your chest, stomach, or back, you will know the feeling. Like you know, second, third degree burns.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that just kept on going for hours and hours and hours. But I thought it was like a zit or whatever, you know, like it sometimes happens that, you know, like you get a zit or a pimple somewhere on your body that really hurts and because it's about to pop. So I take a hot shower and I go back to bed. A few hours later, I wake up again with like this really slight pinching on my left elbow. And I think, well, that's just one of my cats wanting attention. So I swipe my arm. I suddenly feel this big, long thing with legs run across my entire arm and between the wall on my bed. I had never been so fucking terrified in my life before. And
I mean this with all the genuine care in the world and appreciation that you're still alive. But fuck that.
I know. My exact thought.
As somebody, I'm like the biggest centipede keeper, right? I have some of the rarest species, I mean, I'm really into centipedes. If that happened to me, I would kick that thing so hard. I would
but I just captured it.
I would eliminate it. I would burn it. I would die.
This is what I ended up doing. Like, this is like, okay, the centipede's been dead for months now, but these are like the marks of the duct tape that I used to like keep this and that door shut.
Yeah, no shit.
Did not let it out afterwards.
I became sliding glass. My God.
Yeah, no, but like the doors were so closed when I woke up. She must have like slid through here somehow. How in the fuck does a centipede like of this thickness just slide through here without crushing itself?
That is just like.
There's more safer places to hold on a lapid than there is to pick up a centipede.
Actually, that is so true.
Exactly.
Wait, I didn't hear what you said, Ben. What did you say?
There's more places where it's safer to hold on an elapid, which are venomous snakes like mambas and cobras, than there is to hold on a centipede, because a centipede obviously doesn't have a backbone, so it can just double back up on you.
Yeah, plus centipedes can literally grab you. God, no, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about the sensation of like the centipede on my upper arm. It was.
Centipede bites are like,
oh my God,
really suck. Like I've been bitten by a lot of inverts and a lot of snakes and a lot of lizards.
Yeah, right? You're lucky that you haven't had a full envenomation of a Dehani yet, because that spot on my back, not only does it still have tissue scarring, and I'm not just talking about the incision wounds. I'm talking about the entire area that was affected. For weeks after, the area was black. Necrotic venom. These fuckers had it literally melted away my flesh.
No, fuck no, just no.
I was I think
you could say no, absolutely fucking not.
And honestly though, I think this story would get me free drinks at a bar. I'm not joking. I think this is the type of shit that
I have a somewhat similar, not really similar story. I'm just sleeping, minding my own business. I feel something run across my back. I think it's like a feeder insect. I freak out, right? Like, dude, I hate that. I just hate it. I freak out. I just jump out of bed, start shaking myself off, and this house spider, this big, drops off my back.
It's only a house spider, though.
Dude, that's why I'm saying
it's not a phonotria.
Die.
Yeah, but when you don't expect it,
it's
that's when all of your love for the species goes out the window, and your primal I'm a little wimp comes out from the depths of your soul, and you're like, fuck!
I mean,
and everything else ceases to be real. Like nothing else is real at that point.
That is so true.
I mean, I do have to be honest,
visceral experience of fear.
I do have to be honest, right? Like the situation with the centipede, I hope I'm not going to come across as some wannabe tough guy, but for the first 30 seconds, I was genuinely panicking, as you were, KJ. But after that, I thought, well, I mean, all I need to do is grab a big fucking catch cup and try to coax it in.
No, but that was the same with me. Literally, I freaked out. I think I woke my whole neighborhood up for my little baby screams. I freaked out.
Oh no!
Exactly. The spider dropped off, and the second I saw the spider and I calmed down a bit, I just picked it up because I don't care. But it's just that unexpected that thing was in my bed, that is just ugh.
Yeah, your visceral reaction of I don't know what's happening right now.
I will genuinely shit myself if I ever wake up to my Piloctenus or my Heteropoda boyai on me. I will actually kill them. No, listen, if I wake I love them, right? I love these animals.
If you're wandering spider freak, oh.
If I wake up with my wandering spider on me, it's gonna become a very big smudge real quick. As much as I love it, right? As much as I love these animals, I'm not gonna let a genuinely medically significant animal stay on me if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
If I can't shake it off, it's gonna die.
One time I was rehousing the feather-legged baboon tarantula, Stromatopelma calceatum.
Please show the video of it's on your head.
Yes.
I can't find it, but it's a giant.
Right?
It's a giant tarantula from Africa. They're medically significant venom, leaving you with a lot of pain and seeing things. So
Most
venomous
tarantula species.
And it didn't. I swear, it didn't even touch the ground. It was on my back within seconds. And I didn't expect a spider that big to move that quickly.
If there's ever been a time where I've ever been like, I'm happy I work with ball pythons. These stories are the exact time where I'm like, ball pythons are pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you mean. But like, I think that stories like these are like, the big marks that how ancient warriors had their scars or battle marks or whatever. I think this is the invert, battle mark. Like this is a show of experience, or not necessarily experience, but just dumb fuckery.
You can't even see it. That is my battle mark from an Asian water monitor. Okay, go to hell.
See,
you see this one? That little mark? Yeah,
That's
Savannah. I win.
I will always top all of you until somebody gets bitten by a medically significant animal and almost dies.
You know how many times I've been bitten by medically significant things?
Yeah, but I mean almost dies. And I mean out of nowhere.
No.
You just have a big hole on your back.
I know, but I mean that would have that's one of the few things that would actually top what I had. The centipede, right? The centipede, it still irks me to this day, and I'm actually the one that I'm getting now is going into the old centipede's enclosure.
Bro, you idiot! You're an idiot.
Some of the species I deal with, and they leave me bleeding for upwards of 14 hours. And the worst
You mean the leeches?
Yeah, I have to do it deliberately. Like, this should stop bleeding sometime tomorrow.
They thin your blood a lot, don't they?
Yeah, they got Hirudin, which is one of the strongest anticoagulants and painkillers in the animal kingdom.
Here, guys, I'm gonna get this video age restricted. Look, it's porn. I don't know if anyone can see it, but they're fucking. For the first time in the 6 months that I've had this big fucking colony of 300 isopods, they're finally mating.
Nice. I got bitten one time by the Dahani, the Vietnamese centipedes, and I only got a partial envenomation, not full envenomation. Man, I got bit. It
still hurts, doesn't it?
Right on the thumb. I have bumps, all around my hand. That is collateral damage. I don't know what it's from. When the bite happened, my hand
early onset tumors.
Purple. My entire hand was purple. My thumb, I couldn't really move it, and the pain, it was like fire, just shooting up my arm. I felt
I know.
my chest. It was horrible.
Yeah,
I know.
Have I ever told you how cool ball pythons are?
Yeah, you haven't. Don't tell us about it. Okay, but my question, okay. So right now we are telling you our most insane stories that we've had. What is your most insane, holy shit, please help me God moment in your entire life in this hobby?
I've probably had two.
Tell us both.
Okay, all right, I'll be there in a minute. I probably had two. One involves an alligator, and the other involves a retic.
Oh boy, these are gonna be good.
Well, I mean, honestly, they're not even that crazy, but they're enough, especially because they were both when I was younger. Like, so how old are you guys?
I'm 14. Ben is 15,
And I'm 18.
He's 18.
Okay, so I was probably like around, I'd say 14 or 15, volunteering at the local zoo, and it was like fall time, so we had to bring the alligators in from their outdoor exhibits, right? And they weren't huge alligators. I'd say like maybe 4.5 foot alligators. And I was, Mr. Reptile guy, so I was like, we're gonna have
Ben died again.
Oh no.
Rest in peace.
So I'm getting on top of these gators. The last gator we had to get out was in the water, so we had to get it out of the water. Which at that time, like, the concept of training crocodilians in the way that we do now was like very much taboo especially in a zoo situation. So we get this last gator out of the pond, and I jump it, and my hand slipped because she was still wet, obviously, and she bit the side of my hand. And
Holy shit.
luckily I was on top of her, so there was no death roll that was going to happen. But to feel the pressure of an alligator bite, holy fuck. Like,
Dude,
like,
really?
that's
Yeah.
all I can say.
I can't imagine that. That is like, oh.
Yeah, and I have, like, it's hard to see and is also covered up by a milk snake bite right now. But I have
that
small
definitely
scar
tops
from,
what
like,
I did. That definitely tops what I had.
Yeah, the worst part of the whole experience was the fact that she held on for probably 15 or 20 minutes. So, like, because I'm also on top of her, and I know, like,
Right.
if I get off of her, she's gonna roll, and I'm gonna lose the side of my hand. And I was like, I'd prefer to, keep my hand in one piece. That'd be cool.
Right. Oh, dude, if she
so-
death rolled, you'd probably have a large portion of your hand missing.
Yeah, exactly. The other incident was, I forgot where. It might have even been the same zoo. We got in a big retic. So in Massachusetts, state of Massachusetts, reticulated pythons are a restricted species. So they're not a species that you can own without any kind of permitting or anything like that. And if you're a private keeper, you're not getting any permits. So if you have one in Massachusetts, you have it illegally. But zoos, of course, are exempt from that. So we got somebody's retic that was a big surrender retic, and it was easily like 16 foot, maybe more, like a big retic. And we're in the quarantine space, so we got in this really large enclosure, and she's off to one side of the enclosure. I'm in there with another keeper, and we're just doing general maintenance, just cleaning and whatever. And I'm getting kind of closer to her. She's like coiled up and obviously knows what's going on, but is pretty much just doing her own thing. But I noticed that she was in shed, like her eyes are totally opaque. And I was like, oh man, if somebody makes one wrong move here, like it's not going to be good. She's going to go right into defense mode because she can't see. And sure enough, my dumbass accidentally bumped the broom that was next to me, and it landed on her. And she got up, was pissed, and I was like, crap, I don't have any good place to move right now. And so I tried to take one step back, and she launched out at me. And very similar to the nerd video where Gianni got railed in the chest by a cupcake, that's basically what happened to me. But standing up, it knocked me on my ass. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Amazingly, it was very, like, just like Gianni, it was a very insignificant bite wound wise. Like, there's very little bleeding or anything like that, because it was all defense. It was no food response or anything like that. But to be standing up straight to being hit by a snake, and then suddenly I'm on my ass, a few feet back from where I was, that was the worst part of the whole experience, because you got bit, but you also got punched along with it. You know,
I got a bite on the shin by an adult retic. and
Oof.
the thing knocked my leg out straight onto my face. I landed on the snake, right? Because it like kicked my feet out and I landed forward.
Mhm.
So I landed on the snake. I had a lot of damage on my leg.
Yeah.
And then I smacked my face on the floor.
Yes.
And just the punch. The teeth are like the least of it. The punch of the actual snake is insane. I mean,
Yeah.
it just smacks you.
Retics are like suffocating snakes, right?
Yeah, constrictors.
Yeah, they're constrictors.
Constrictors, thank you. Well, I mean, isn't that like, isn't that punch that you guys are talking about? Isn't that something they use to incapacitate or at least shock animals that they, that they get their teeth on, so to speak?
It's part
strength.
of the
Like,
yeah, it's part of it, but it's just their overall strength. It's one of the ways they are able to overpower whatever their prey item is to be able to constrict it. Is just like you're getting knocked out. Like I think about another, not a terrible bite, but another species that's got a big punch behind them is like Borneo shorttails and bloods and all that stuff. Yeah. They're heavy ambush predators.
They
so
pack
when
a
they
punch.
get you, they pack a massive punch. So I got bit by one of my like subadults like here, and the bite, it was like whatever, it's a snake bite, but the bruise that happened all through here later was like, man, it's like a 30-inch snake. Like I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big snake, but it came out and it's just like, God, and you're like, oh cool, this is great. It's wonderful. I'm happy to be here right now.
I got
the fact that a snake
exact
does
same
more
spot.
blunt damage than puncture damage is, to me, genuinely fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, let's be honest. Snakes are just big rubber hoses with mouths, right?
Yeah. Well,
my big springs.
My nickname for blood and short-tail pythons is meat missile, because that's basically what's shooting up at you. It's just a big meat missile.
Right.
I'm gonna use that one.
Blood and short-tail. Yeah.
I got bit right in the same spot on my thumb here by my like 6-foot boa constrictor male, and holy moly! I mean that the bite itself is actually pretty bad on that one because his tooth punctured the muscle and like stopped from moving.
Yeah.
But I complete bruise mark around my hand here, on the bottom. He like punctured it on the bottom here, and it just like stopped my whole thumb from moving. I couldn't do this for like 2 weeks.
Okay, so here's a funny boa bite video, and it doesn't have to do with me being bitten, which is even better. So I'll preface it by saying this. I've known Kevin at Nerd for about 12 years now, and I've never really ever seen him get bit by anything more than a ball python. So when he does get bit, it's a pretty rare and exciting experience in general. So we're visiting a friend of his who is a bigger boa breeder, and he had a large number of boas. And obviously, when you have that many snakes, especially that many large snakes, you're not necessarily worried about handling every animal. You're a breeder. You're breeding these snakes to produce more snakes to sell. So they weren't all exactly tame. So Kevin's going through, and some of these boas are like launching out of their enclosures for food, because they think it's food time. And
they're boa.
Yeah. So I forgot who was next to me, but we said something to Kevin and distracted him while he was opening this cage, and this 7-foot boa grabbed his fingers, and kudos to Kevin, because all that happened was it bit him and wrapped him, and all I heard was ooh, and I was like, that's it, is ooh. And then he stops the snake from wrapping around him anymore. We go to the sink, and we're just running warm water to try to get him off and whatever. And I'm dying laughing right now, like dying of laughing. And he's like, this really isn't funny. It actually does hurt. And I was like, you don't understand, dude. In the 12 years I've known you, you've only taken a bite from a ball python. This is quite wonderful, actually, to see. And
I remember.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about the situation, but it was wonderful.
God, I can't wait.
I saved the towel we wiped his blood up with. I saved
Really?
it. and I brought it back with me, and I like showed it to all the staff, and I was like, he's not impervious to snake bites. He gets bitten by other things.
I love it how it was
such a
still
rare
your fault,
experience.
though. Like you still distracted.
100%.
I was like,
100%. I will own that. I got Kevin McCurley bit by a big ass boa. I will own that title proudly, and I still have the bloody towel. And people are like, why did you save that? And I'm like, you don't understand the significance of what this towel represents.
I remember when I got bit on the thumb, like I got the snake off. It was like late, you know, it was like 1 a.m. I'm alone, right? Doing my late night feeding rounds, right?
1 a.m. feeding rounds. Great job.
He's wrapped around my arm. So it was a feeding response. He's wrapped around my arm, and I grab his head, you know, and I put him under the water, and I get his head off, but my other hand is incapable. And I'm holding his head in the other hand. If I were to let go of his head, I know he would smack me.
He would have.
You know?
Yeah.
So I have to like wake up my sister. Blood is like falling down my arm onto the floor. My face is covered in blood. And I like wake up my sister. She tells me to go fuck off. I'm like, no, I need your help.
I need help. Yeah.
It's out of bed. She freaked, man. She was so shocked. And then she had to like get over it, unwrap the snake, and then I got the snake, you know. Blood is like I've left a trail from the bathroom to my bedroom full of blood. You know?
Yes.
But my question is, KJ, is your sister afraid of snakes though?
She's not, but she was just like shocked on how much damage
that
the snake
happened.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the puncture holes were pretty small, but just the amount of blood was insane. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, of course, those are like a half inch to an inch long fangs, right? They go deep.
They've got about a quarter inch to a half inch. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the amount of veins that pierces is fucking insane. And then the blood,
it's
you know,
crazy.
The deep, dark purple red.
Yeah. Yep. It's intense. Hey, so my phone is literally at like 10%. So I'm like going to end up dying.
No,
you guys heads up.
Don't worry about it.
Hey.
We usually wrap up the stream around the 2-hour mark anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just got the little pop-up, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was awesome having you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, most definitely. Definitely, yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem, dude. Thanks. Bye.
Cool. All right, take care, guys.
Bye.